Hello. So today we're going to be talking about manufacturing strategy and location decision based on the case study for Polaris Industries. And we go ahead and we'll start with hybrid manufacturing strategy. So Polaris is taking a hybrid manufacturing strategy. It allows them to capture cost advantages uh, of global sourcing while maintaining control over the final product. Um, Outsourcing components leverages suppliers, specialization, and cost efficiencies, um, while insourcing the final assembly ensures the integration, accuracy, and brand protection, as well as a faster response to market demand. Um, it's very common for this model to be used with different industries in today's society. Um, it allows for a lot of flexibility and precision, which are critical for certain manufacturing types, which Polaris kind of falls into. Um, so for outsourcing, kind of the rationale behind this is lower production costs, right? So typically, when you outsource production, you have a 20 to 40% reduction in overall cost of the components or the actual production of the product. Um, the supplier typically has expertise and specialization for the components that they're tasked with. This leads to higher efficiency and quality, but at a lower cost. Economies of scale kind of allow suppliers to produce at volumes Polaris alone could not justify, right? So they're able to adjust their manufacturing process to fit the need. It also increases flexibility, enabling Polaris to switch suppliers if needed in order to adjust based on the demands. So next we will talk about insourcing. So insourcing for Polaris, final assembly, right? Final production comes together, making it critical for maintaining quality and brand reputation. Um, by keeping this process in the United States for Polaris, they ensure tighter quality control and reduce the risk of defects. It also enables quicker adjustments to production schedules and customization to the product based on the market, and overall it increases their responsiveness to customer demand. And since they're primarily based in the U.S., it is beneficial for them. So next, we're going to talk a little bit about vertical integration, right? So with vertical integration, higher control, higher cost, but reduced dependency, right? It offers strategic advantages such as control over the quality and intellectual property protection. It also kind of has supply chain stability built into it as well. But like I mentioned earlier, the higher fixed costs due to the higher amount of control kind of make it a little difficult. They have to balance the trade-offs pretty selectively depending on what their competitive priorities are. Um, but overall, it seems to be working. So next, we will talk about why someone might vertically integrate. Right? We already kind of mentioned it previously, but protect intellectual property, um, and then ensure quality, and then secure a supply chain, and it overall creates stability, right? So with vertical integration, overall, it reduces risk and increases control that they have over the product that they are producing. This is especially important in industries with high quality standards and proprietary technologies. Right? Polaris has high standards, and there is certain aspects of it that would be deemed proprietary for them. It also reduces their reliance on external suppliers, which can be critical during any sort of global disruptions, which we kind of saw with the COVID-19 pandemic. A lot of critical components for a lot of manufacturers weren't able to get into the country. So being vertically integrated will kind of reduce this risk to the company overall. So now we're going to talk about locations, right? Three regions, right? We're going to talk about the United States, Mexico, China, right? They represent different strategic trade-offs, right? So the U.S. offers proximity to market and high quality, but it comes at a higher labor cost because of the economy within the country, right? China provides the lowest labor cost, but introduces risks because of the longer lead time and shipping variability that plays a role into that. And then Mexico, middle ground, right? Moderate cost and geographic proximity. All of them have benefits. It's just which is most important to the company when they choose their location. So moving on, we're going to talk about the total cost, right? So rather than just focusing on labor costs, a company needs to consider the total landed cost, right? So hidden costs such as tariffs, shipping delays, inventory holding, these all impact the overall profitability for the company, right? So considering all of this total cost together is a more holistic approach to at least a more accurate decision when it comes to judging what location you should manufacture a good at. So next, to calculate this, we're going to talk about the cost equation just very briefly. So cost equation, total cost is equal to labors, materials, shipping, and tariffs, right? So with the three examples I mentioned previously, the United States, Mexico, China, right? China appears to be cheapest on a labor basis, right? Mexico is second, and then US being last. But once you consider all of the other costs and calculate it all into the total cost as far as shipping, tariffs, inventory, all that, it's not really going to be China that wins out. So now with the total cost kind of explained, we're going to talk about the cost comparison between those three examples that I given, right? So China obviously has the lowest labor, but they also have the highest shipping and tariff exposure. Mexico, mid-range labor, not a whole lot of shipping costs incurred with Mexico because of proximity to the United States. And then U.S. highest labor costs, but lowest shipping, right? And also logistics. Made in country, it's easier to ship, it's easier to calculate logistics to distribute everywhere. So it's kind of a balance between what the company finds important, whether it's labor cost, shipping, fluctuation, all of that. I think it's leaning towards Mexico as being the best location at this point, but we'll go ahead and continue on. Right. So now we're going to talk about some sensitivities, right? Labor changes, shipping cost changes, tariffs, demand shifts. All of this is used to evaluate the decision while considering changing conditions, right? In today's economy, especially with all the tariffs and the challenges in different shipping lanes over the country, whether it be the East China Sea or the Strait of Hormuz, there's a lot of variability when it comes to shipping and producing goods. So overall, U.S., right, good automation, kind of stable, just right down the lane. You're not going to have a whole lot of issues with shipping costs. China is super sensitive to shipping, so the total cost, more of the shipping cost is going to play a role in that, depending on what's going on with the country. Whereas Mexico is relatively stable because of its location near the United States. So overall, I recommend Mexico as the recommendation for manufacturing. It offers the best balance between cost, risk, and responsiveness. However, it allows you to maintain a diversified supplier base to adapt to future disruptions. Now, talking about some qualitative considerations, we already kind of spoke to it a little bit earlier, like political risk, supply chain resilience, lead time, all that. With everything that is going on in the world, with all of the political strife and the issues within certain shipping lanes, this all needs to be considered when you pick a location to base your manufacturing out of. Now, talking about leadership decisions, right? They need to consider both quantitative and qualitative factors, right? The goal is not just to reduce costs, but to build a sustainable and self-sufficient supply chain that aligns with the objective of the company. With that in mind, my final recommendation is going to be Mexico for manufacturing. Um, It allows us to maximize efficiency while maintaining control and flexibility with the U.S. final assembly, and then continue to diversify sourcing based on what's going on in the global economy currently. So, in conclusion, overall, the hybrid model is very competitively advantaged to a corporation. It allows you to kind of control the cost as well as control over your final product, and it allows flexibility to kind of navigate difficult situations within the global economy.